Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of Teen Talk Live. I am your host, Ann Dillard. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and it gives me great pleasure to be back here with you tonight. And tonight we have an amazing, dynamic guest, uh, Dr. Gladys Smith, who is going to share with us about reducing the impact of trauma on the entire family during this time of quarantine. So help me welcome Dr. Gladys. Welcome to Teen Talk Live.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. I am so glad that you said yes and are here with us tonight because this is such a critical topic to talk about. But before we jump into it, let's tell the audience a little bit about you and who do you serve.
Okay. Well, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. And so I am a licensed professional counselor and a certified clinical trauma professional. I serve just about any population, individuals, families. I work with trauma, all forms of trauma. I do EMDR, CBT, DBT, and I do group therapy as well. I have served for 26 years in the military, in the Navy. So I've got a lot of experience with trauma being in the Navy. And I started out as a drug and alcohol counselor, and that transformed over into trauma specialty.
Oh my goodness, just such a wide uh array of experiences that you bring tonight, and we're going to try to get as much as we can out of the next 30 minutes, Dr. Gladys. So I can't thank you enough for being here. Right. So I thought the topic was a really good one to talk about tonight in light of everything that's going on in the world, families being quarantined together, and we are seeing a spike in domestic abuse. We're seeing a spike in child abuse and neglect. We're just seeing so many different things happening. Families are fighting more and things like that. And I just can't help but think that a lot of times trauma is at the root of that. So tell us, what are some of the things we need to know about trauma?
Well, I wanted to start off first is that there's two different types of trauma. There's public trauma, which is truly what we are experiencing now with this pandemic. All of us across the countries, across the states, internationally are experiencing this. It could be anything from terrorism to watching the Twin Towers come down. You know, those are
Mm,
public things, floods, fires, terrorism. It could be
yeah.
cultural. It could be the impact of slavery, the Holocaust, the Native Americans with the Trail of Tears. So that would be public things, things that are widely known. And then there's the other
Yeah.
type of trauma, which is the private trauma. And that could be
Mm,
where there's some type of power differential between two individuals. It could be an authority figure. Uh, Imparting racism, discrimination on an individual. It could be child abuse, sexual abuse, discrimination, those types of things. So there's two types: the public, which we are experiencing now, this trauma
right.
of what this virus is doing to our community, our lives, and then there's the private type. So there's two types.
Wow. Okay. That's a really nice, concise way to put it. Right. And
Mhm.
so it seems like the public, what from my experience and the clients that I'm dealing with, it seems like the public trauma is now informing the private trauma.
That is great. I mean, that's right on target. It really, really is. And you mentioned earlier, and I saw on the news, the several news shows, the influx and the increase in domestic violence and family violence, just the whole nine yards. I don't know so much if it is increased or that it is because
Mm,
we are in a confined space together that is more prominent, and now we see it for what it really is. So one of the things, 98% it be a good dysfunction or a not so good dysfunction. But the interesting thing is there's 3 rules in families, and they come out when dysfunctions come out. Don't talk, don't
Oh,
trust, don't feel. So when there's problems going on, when there's trauma of some sort, or if you're confined, talking, trusting, is feeling is all that you have. And if you're not sure of how to do that, you haven't processed that in the family, it can be very traumatizing to learn how to communicate under the restraint of being connected with someone 24 hours a day. Whereas before you could, kind of hide with work or hide with some other things.
yeah, you can distract yourself.
Most definitely.
Okay,
Distract, hide.
I love that because I never thought of it as the 3 rules in families: don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And that makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense to categorize it like that. I think we might benefit the audience who are not really familiar with the definition of trauma, just to back up a little bit and define, what is trauma. We talked about the 2 different types.
Mhm.
But somebody gave me a really concise definition. But I'm going to let you go, and for the lay audience who might not even know that they're experiencing trauma, what is trauma?
It's so interesting because there's so many definitions. And so you said that somebody gave you a concise definition. There's a definition that we use as clinicians. And trauma can be any with underlying incident that causes distress on an individual. Any incident, because what is traumatic for me might not be traumatic for you. It could be an example as a kid is being bullied at school, or
Yes.
a child is left at home and mom and dad think that they're okay. That could be traumatizing for that individual, but they never talk about it. They never say. And trauma is really on a continuum, which means that
Yes.
from 0 to 100, it could be anything that's way over here, a small incident that happened, or it could be what's called collective, or ongoing, where it happens all the time throughout a person's life. Or it could be a one-time incident where we call it episodic. So trauma can be defined in
Ah.
many different ways because it's experienced in many different ways for individuals.
Yes, I love that. One of my friends who was on a while back, he said trauma is anything that's too fast, too hard, too
I love
much.
it. I love it. Too fast, too hard, too much. Yes.
And when I say it to my kids, they're like, oh, I get it, too fast, too hard, too much. And your capacity to endure is different than my capacity to endure. So
Yeah,
something that might be traumatic for you might not be for me.
resilience. That's the word. What
That's
I could
it.
take, what you could take. That brings up one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today, briefly, was explaining to people the window of tolerance. And that window of
Mm.
tolerance is how we can accept things. So when you're in a window of tolerance that's fine for you, you feel good. You can take on the world. You can just process things really well, and you can thrive. And that's different for everybody. If you get stressed and you're in your window of tolerance, you can handle it. You're good. But if you don't have a stable window of tolerance and you're not really sure, there's 2 ways that we respond. We can be hyper aroused, or we can be hypo aroused. Hyper
Ah.
aroused, we're really on the go, that flight or fright. We're excited. We're still, we can't even move. We don't even know what to do. And you hear about that one a lot, people being hyper aroused,
Yes.
way out of the window of tolerance. So the window of tolerance is here. Hyper is up here. Hypo is down here. And you'll find that a lot with people too, is where they're confined in the room. It might be an apartment, it might be in a house, but they don't want to
Yes.
do anything. They don't want to move. They don't want to talk to anybody. And so we respond differently to traumas
Yes.
or stresses. We can be hyper aroused, running around the house, wanting to do things, wanting to get everything done, or we can be way down, hypo aroused.
Yes. I think that's
Sure, maybe.
really, really good to know, right? Your window of tolerance, because sometimes when we're quarantined with each other, we can think something is wrong with the other person if they don't have our level of tolerance.
Right. What do we usually say? What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
Right, right.
Right? And we're all experiencing this level of trauma differently.
We are. We are, because we all have different coping mechanisms and tools, and our window of tolerance may be just a little bit bigger than someone else's, and we're able to, like Rain-X, let it bead off. But others of us absorb it all. We absorb it all. We feel
Yeah.
it all, and we just want to feel different from the way that we feel.
And I think that's so important and so validating. I you know, my husband and I, we don't have any children at home, and we have different windows of tolerance, right? I am usually the one that's, can keep going, keep going, keep going. And so yesterday he had a little snag, and we got through it. And I was going, going, going. And today I was in correspondence with someone, and they sent back a response that was, it normally wouldn't bother me, but I processed it as being harsh. And then I just like fell apart.
Yeah.
And I had to catch myself. I was in full-blown tears. I'm like, my feelings were hurt. And I'm like, I had to catch myself, because I know that normally that would not bother me to that degree. But then I had to extend some grace. I'm like, you know what? This is a different time in a different space. And it's okay if it bothers me.
It is. And then, yeah, and you reminded yourself, oh, wait a minute, there is a lot going on. Maybe my reaction isn't what it normally would be. You're
Yeah.
self-aware. And sometimes people aren't, though, and it really takes some time to get to that point. And that's where coping skills and grounding skills and all that kind of stuff comes in. Teaching yourself and teaching your responses, because we'll have a thought and our body and everything else will respond in a different way.
Wow, that's good. That's good. So let me pause and just acknowledge all the people who are shouting you out for being here. My business bestie Marquita is on, and oh, we have a viewer, Mariama, all the way from Senegal, West Africa. Hey, sister.
Hey.
Sabra, my business bestie. Yes, thank you. The domestic violence in the homes, yeah, it is scary. Um, Laverne from Connecticut, Melanie from Minnesota or South Carolina. Hey, Queen, nice to see you. Gloria from Chicago, Javante from Connecticut. Oh, it's so good to see all these people on. If you are watching us and you are enjoying all this knowledge that Dr. Gladys is sharing with us, let us know that you are watching, and share this out. Share this out, because it can help somebody, and it literally can save somebody's lives, okay, somebody's life. So share it out, and we'll continue to talk with Dr. Gladys. All right, so what are some of the things that we can do, Dr. Gladys, because people might feel helpless, and it's, you don't have to be a clinician to be able to process this,
Not at all.
right? No, no, you can do it with some tools and the knowledge of some tools. So how can we educate our audience and give them some practical things to do, some self-awareness, some tools to navigate this space?
Okay. So the first one that I want, I use it with everyone, and I'm sure other clinicians use it as well. It's called the self-care wheel. And if everybody at home would Google self-care wheel PDF, just Google it, and a wheel will come out. And what that wheel has is 6 components of self-care. So that is the first thing, is understanding and engaging in some type of self-care. And it's broken down into 6 different categories. And each of the categories, it gives you suggestions. Take a warm bath, start a journal, take a walk. But the interesting thing about that self-care wheel is that it's for families as well as individual. So there's activities on there that each person can do or each person can take a side of the wheel and say, let's do this one tonight. Let's do this one today. Let's do this one tomorrow. So it's understanding first that everybody is going through something, not just you. When you're feeling bad, the other people in the family are feeling bad as well. Yep, that's it. There we
So
go.
I'm able to pull it up and show our audience a little bit the
Yep,
self-care wheel, right?
that's it. I love it.
So yes, we have the emotional, the spiritual, the personal, the professional, the physical, and the psychological parts of the wheel.
That would be one of the first tools. It is like an amazing little tool. It looks like, oh God, it looks busy. But then when you start to look at it and you start to look at the things, you can incorporate things that you like, highlight the things that you like, give each person a part of the wheel. There's only two of you, split the wheel in half. So it allows everyone to take part in being healthy and being well, and recognizing that self-care is what we're going to have to do if we're quarantined for another day. We need to, find activities that we all can share in, or individually how you can have your own self-care plan.
That is excellent. And so I'm going to post that self-care wheel in the comment section so people can have that. Dr. Gladys, I want you to touch on one thing for me. I know we were going to talk something else, but there is a part of the population that I don't speak to often, but I know I have a lot of people who are affected by this, people who are in isolation. They live by themselves.
Yes.
And can they still experience trauma?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because the trauma of isolation, that's one of the things that they're doing with a lot of detentions and schools and a lot of the prisons. They're trying to do away with this isolation, because the isolation, there's this theory, for those of you that like theories and research, the polyvagal theory. And in that theory is the socialization part, the mirror neurons, and understand. And the main part of it is how we connect to others. How we connect. And those that are isolated, whether it be by choice or by being in the hospital or what have you, that is one of the scariest things. So one way to connect to yourself is, and I'm so glad you asked that, because aside from being an EMDR therapist, I do somatics with people and helping them understand what's going on with their body. One way of curing, addressing the isolation, is to get in contact with your body. What's going on with your body? How are you breathing? And so I teach people that a lot. Journaling helps a lot, because sometimes people are in isolation and they stay just isolated, mind and body. The idea is to move. If you can move your body, if you can journal about what's going on, if you can color, if you can make some form of movement, and reach out to others, that isolation isn't so bad, because sometimes the isolation is selective.
Ah, okay. Okay. I can understand that.
One of my friends just posted a picture of her going into, she's a psychologist, and she posted a picture of herself going into visit individuals that are isolated because of this virus. When they're in the hospital, no one can come visit them, no one can see them. So the nurses and the doctors and the individuals like that are the only one visiting them. Those we know about, but like you said, though, there are some people in their homes that are isolated. One thing that they can do is to, number one, reach out to others, reach out to themselves.
Yes.
The telephone, remember that thing that we used to do? A lot of times we love to text. we don't reach out to an individual. Another thing that many people might not even think about, or even think that this would be, write a letter to individuals that that are isolated. Get a stamp, put it on there, and getting and receiving a piece of mail lightens your heart. And it lets you know, if it's not a letter that you send someone, a simple little postcard. And you can make a postcard, cut an index card and put a stamp on it. It becomes a postcard.
Right. And I love that, because even parents who are looking for activities for their children at home, that's something you can do together as a family. Just, write up, draw something. It doesn't have to be a Picasso. You just draw
Right.
something and write a note and send it to somebody in the mail. That is such an excellent
But
idea.
that's really interesting. You said an idea, or one of the things that I wanted to talk about as an activity for the family is to have everyone every day write letters to some of the senior citizens that are locked up either not locked up. Well, we're all locked up now, but they're in senior citizen homes or homes for the elderly, and just write a letter. Hi, wanted to say hello to you, and you can take them to the center or mail them to the center, and they can distribute them, because no one can come in and no one can go out. But if they receive a bulk amount of letters or just little notes from
Yeah.
individuals, oh my gosh, the isolation would be broken. They could know that people know that they're there and that people do care.
I love that. I love that. So another part of the population that I get a lot of calls about is because I work in this area of healing the mother-daughter relationship. I get a lot of calls about mothers and daughters are just like at a all time at each other's throats right now when we're talking about trauma in the family.
Mhm.
So can you just speak to that a little bit?
Oh, sure. And remember earlier I said, don't trust, don't talk, don't feel. That plays to part right here now. So now you're a teenager, first of all, and
Yes.
you're already at that age where you don't want to talk to mom. And then here we come with the rules of don't trust, don't talk, don't feel. It's really like, well, what can I trust my mom? What can I trust her with saying? So those difficulties run deep. I work with a lot of mother-daughter relationships as well, and oftentimes there was some trauma involved in the family. We talked earlier about the Clark sisters and watching that movie, and just some of the things that went on. The mother-daughter relationship is so difficult, because mom may have a view of what she wants her child's life to be,
That's
regardless of the
right.
age. I want your life to be this way. Daughter has a view of what she wants to do. And oftentimes, the mother may have experienced something at the same age that the daughter experienced it, cannot tell her, never wants to say anything about it. But the daughter will say, why is my mom so protective over this? Why are you so mean? Why are you doing this? I don't
Or so
understand.
extra. Why is she so extra?
Extra. That's what the word that they use. Why are you so extra? You're so nosy. Hear it all the time. The reason is because mom has experienced things that she's never talked to you about, or doesn't know how to talk to you about, and doesn't trust that she would be able to handle the situation. So now
That's
we're
right.
quarantined, and there's some things that may come out that I don't, I'm worrying about what you're seeing these boys. I'm wondering about your friendships. I'm wondering if you're taking life serious. And the daughter is like, you're being extra. So it goes
Yeah.
back to just the first thing is learning to talk to one another, learning to see the individuality in each other. And there's many ways of doing that. One way that I thought that I wanted to share today was a family collective story. You use 10
Ah,
words. You put 10, everyone puts a word down, every day, or you pull 10 words out of the dictionary. Mom may start the story, daughter finishes the story, but you can only use the 10 words. You use 10 words every day or once a week to do a story. You start to open up the channels of communication, because people haphazardly start to talk about things. When you're relaxed, remember that window of tolerance,
yes.
when you're in that window of tolerance, you're able to talk about things that you maybe wouldn't talk about. When you're relaxed, you learn about an individual, and our defenses aren't up so much. So that 10 words, the family tells the story with the 10 words. If you have a big family, maybe you could use 20 words. And if there's two of you, it makes it even more fun, because you start off with, and one way of doing it is you take 10 words, the other individual takes 10 words, you tell the story of your life using the 10 words. Now, just imagine how dynamic that could be when an individual uses just those 10 words. I've used words like sunshine, rain, flower, toe, pain, and
Yes.
anger. And
Yes.
An individual will tell their whole life in just those words, and you get insight into the window. And it allows communication to be open, and it's not someone grilling you. You don't feel like that. So it's just one little simple activity that that a mom and daughter can do together to get to know each other.
And that's a powerful activity.
And because it uses words, you know, and it's not someone probing you or asking you a million questions, and you can trust that person because it's the words that you're giving them that the information is coming from.
Wow. Wow. Powerful, powerful. So I'm looking at our time, and our this half an hour went by really, really fast. So what else? What's one other thing you can share with our audience? Because today, again, if you're just joining or you're catching us on the replay, we are talking about reducing the impact of trauma on the family during this time of quarantine. And we are just so excited to have Dr. Gladys here with us because she's sharing and educating us about trauma and about things that we can do so we're not feeling so helpless. There's so many things we don't have control over, this is Dr. Gladys, and so many things that we can do that we have control over.
So I had a couple of things, but one thing that I do want to share that the family can do, and people may have done this. I saw you had the intention rocks on the wet. That would be a thing to do, is to grab some rocks from outside, go on a walk, and paint them. But the one that I really wanted to share was the jar. Now you can we all have a cookie jar. I'm sure everyone's been eating a lot of cookies and stuff.
Or peanut butter.
Or, yeah, a jar. Now, this can be an intention jar. It could be a gratitude jar. It could be an affirmation jar. It could be a positive thoughts jar. Everybody every day puts in one, whatever it is, whatever they're thinking. At the end of the week, you can pull it out. And this one happens to be an affirmation jar. So say, and this one says, I'm enough. The whole family gets to pull, everyone pulls out one, and with an affirmation jar, I'm enough. And you can talk about how that feels to you. And if you want to pass and you don't want to talk about it right now, just knowing that you pulled that out. And it's two-sided. So the second side may be something that you need. And this one is patience. You may need patience. You know, there are no accidents of what you pull out. The second way this jar could be used is a gratitude jar. And everybody puts in something that they're thankful for the whole week. And at the end of the week, it could be the Friday activity or it could be the Monday activity. And you read it, you know, everyone gets a chance to read. I am grateful for my family. They get on my nerves, but I'm grateful for my family, you know. And then at the end of the week, you start all over again. And then the third way is the positive thoughts. You know, everyone puts in a positive thought and you can pull it out, but you can use the jar for just about anything. But it's a way that the family can come together. It's a way that the family can release tension by laughing. Yes. Now I've seen people do the TikTok. After a while, everybody's going to get tired of doing TikTok. So these things like this. And the
that
last
is so good. So good.
Is taking some breaths, breathing together. Just breathing in for 4 and out for 6. When you find yourself getting stressed, when you find yourself getting overwhelmed, that is the one thing that survivors that helps individuals that are encased in a room together or a home together. It's just taking some breaths, because it allows you to remember, I don't have to be tense, or even recognize that you are tense.
Yeah. That is, I mean, that is so good. I share with my clients that, you know, that deep breathing, it really is the way to access your thinking brain. So you have a chance of making the next right decision, right?
That's so
because,
true.
Because if you're in fight, flight, or freeze, chances are you're going to go straight survival.
That's the truth. You're not going to make a good decision. You are not going to make a good decision.
Right. So if you could just pause and breathe, that will make such a big difference. Well, Dr. Gladys, this has been really insightful and very informative. And I want you to tell people what's coming up for you and tell them how they can find you.
So right now, what's coming up for me is a lot of telehealth. I do a lot of it's just people need help, and so I've been doing a lot of telehealth, and I'll have a couple of workshops coming up in a couple of months. They're not detailed yet, so but I'm going to give you my email, and if you want to contact me for telehealth counseling or if you have questions, my email is gsmith2222 at AOL.com. And yes, I still have AOL. Everybody laughs at me, but I have I don't like change, so I just have kept it. So G
Yeah.
Smith 2222 at AOL.
And when we're off, if you can just drop that in the comment section, that would
Yeah.
be great. And tell us, what states are you licensed in if people are in need of mental health care?
So now I Illinois and Missouri, but because of this COVID, they're opening up. And I saw your paper online today. Is that they're opening them up? The one that I'm filling out now is Minnesota and Tennessee. So hopefully
Awesome.
for the next 3 months, it'll be Minnesota, Tennessee, Illinois, and Missouri.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you heard it right here, folks. Trauma does not have to take over your family during this time of quarantine. There is a solution. There are things that we can actively do about it to protect ourselves, to protect our families. And Dr. Gladys was so gracious enough to come on and share her expertise with us. And for that, I thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for
Um,
asking me.
Absolutely. And for everyone who's joined us this evening, thank you again for being a part of Team Talk Live. This is where we are sharing lots of information, knowledge, and strategies to help people create and live their best life and to help teens navigate this difficult time in their lifespan, right? If you're joining us, remember to share this out, share this knowledge with somebody because it literally could save their life. Thank you so much and have a good night. See you next time.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.